Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Today is the first Saturday of the month, which means it's time for the Chef Doc, Dr. Colin Zhu for the Culinary Medicine Show. He's going to be making a Buddhist delight, his own version in honor of the Lunar New Year. And he is in the Ultimate Vegan Health and Weight Loss Bundle with an amazing product that he's also going to tell you about. Please welcome him back to the show. Happy Lunar New Year, if that's what you're supposed to say. Exactly.
Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm humbled to be back again. This is the second time I'm on the show. So, but I've been on your show, a few times already. So, really humbled to come back to your audience. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Colin Zhu. I'm originally from New Jersey, born based in Southern California, and I am a physician by trade, family practice, and I am also certified in lifestyle medicine, and I specialize in culinary medicine. And that's basically using evidence-based lifestyle approaches to prevent, treat, and reverse chronic diseases. And we talk a lot about food as medicine. So thank you so much. So the first bit is, how are you, Chef AJ? I just wanted to ask, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you. And I wanted to tell you something because, you talk about culinary medicine, and I had Dr. Robert Vogel on. He's a cardiologist this week. And you know what he called the disease that he treats? Culinary artery disease. Isn't that great?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting take on it.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of a cool thing to say.
Yeah. So today we're going to be I'm going to be doing my own version of Buddhist Delight, and we are in celebration of Lunar New Year. Okay. And Lunar New Year, let's see. Lunar New Year is celebrated amongst a lot of Asian countries, China, Vietnam, Philippines, some of them. So it's all across, different parts of, not just Chinese New Year. And it follows the lunar calendar. And if we were to actually follow the lunar calendar, we would actually be in the year 47 and some change, not actually 2023. So, it would be like 47, 20 something. I need to look it up, what 23 would corresponds to. But it's there's a lot of storytelling, historical context, cultural context. So I will love to kind of give a little bit of folklore, historical context, as well as what our family does, as well as show some pictures before we go into the actual recipe. And I wanted to let people know to watch towards the end, because we have a couple of announcements that I think you guys would be, fully appreciate. So before I go into my storytelling and sharing, I just wanted to give you a quick look at the spread that I have here. Can you see this, AJ?
Wow. That's a very beautiful mise en place you did.
So thank you. Buddhist Delight is actually, there's a traditional dish when you're celebrating Lunar New Year. Traditionally, it's actually with 18 different kinds of ingredients. And I'll go more into this in a little bit. But some of them are actually hard to source. And if you are not, if you're not lucky enough to be, near an Asian supermarket or a Chinese supermarket, so it might be a little bit hard. So I did my best to actually take pictures of all, and instead of actually, writing down the recipe, which you guys will get later on. I actually took pictures because I think that would, pictures, tells 1,000 words, right? You can actually, source if you, were to. So, and I've always lived on coastal, states. And so if you're in the middle of America, might be a little bit harder to source. So, but you never know. We have Amazon, we have Whole Foods now. You never know. You might get things delivered to you. So with that in mind, I'm going to share screen. Can you let me know, AJ, if you can see this?
I can. What are those?
Those are dried lily flower.
Oh,
Yeah. So I'll go into like each ingredients in a moment, but let me just kind of start off with this. All right, let's see. Okay, cool. So I took a traditional book and I snapped pictures of it because I just love how they oriented, the pictures and the different, customs and different things that they had. And obviously, it's in Chinese, so I will, just kind of like summarize. So basically, the folklore of Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year really stems back to around, and I actually had to ask my mother about this just to kind of like corroborate. The folklore is like, it goes back all the way many, many thousands of years, where even like around at caveman, hunters and gatherer time period, that they actually started this. And this was a time where, man was just starting out and there was a lot more gigantic animals, not dinosaur age. We're past that. Like this is way past, extinction of dinosaurs. But there were, larger animals, a few thousand, years ago, that they had to deal with. So a part of that is that, in China, right, if we're talking about, more ancient China, it was set up in villages. There wasn't cities, there wasn't capitals back then, it was more villages. And so in order to, kind of celebrate and, start Lunar New Year, this was, implemented. So a lot of it is actually in the context of being able to be safe and keeping your family and tribe and village intact. So there's and then I say that because the cultural and historical context, is based upon this, right? So as you can probably see, there's a lot of red. Okay, so Lunar New Year, Chinese New Year, there's a lot of elements of red. And so red for us is very lucky. It represents prosperity. It represents it's blood, right? It's color of blood. It represents vitality. It represents, your lifeline. So that's why we use a lot of, red. If you ever see people with red envelopes, all the decorations, if you ever go to like a Chinatown, if you have a Chinatown, near you and you see a parade, everyone is dressed in red. So, just to kind of give you some context. And then for, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but for the firecrackers, the reason why firecrackers got started is because, when they actually had to scare off these larger animals, okay, they actually used firecrackers. And that's how firecrackers got started. And we also invented firecrackers too, including paper and gunpowder. But yes, that's how firecrackers got started. So, so let's see here. So red envelopes. So red envelopes, so whenever the, larger animals got scared away. So during the family traditions and the neighbors, what they did was they did a lot of welcoming and they did a lot of, just basically expressing gratitude and appreciation that, we're here, we're safe, we're alive, right? Red envelopes, typically, traditionally, you put money in. And traditionally, you actually give it to people that are single, not, so non-married people, you would actually, give this to. And it's a way to, let people know that, here is a blessing, for you, for the New Year's, okay? So there's a lot of things that happen in New Year's Eve to New Year's Day. So for this year, New Year's Eve was January 21st to January 22nd. New Year's celebration is actually over 15 days, 14, 15 days. It's not actually how we celebrate New Year's where, the ball drops the day, people get hungover and then that's it, right? So it's actually celebrated over 15 days with a lot of different types of events that is spread, interspersed. So when you look at the picture down below here, let me see if I can zoom in. Yeah, so a lot of the treats and snacks are very symbolic. So the snacks are circular, Okay, if you notice, it follows, it's circular, so that means like whole, right? And not for this audience, but traditionally we fry a lot of things, and what that means is that things are bursting, things are blossoming. So when you're having snacks, and the act of frying is the blossoming, and if you ever like fireworks, a lot of lights and smoke comes out, things like that. That's also to represent that as well. We make a lot of sweet dumplings. We make dumplings in general, but there's also savory dumplings and sweet dumplings.
Yeah.
And that represents
AJ Live. Sorry
that
about that.
no, that's okay. That represents so it also makes we make it into pouches, and that also represents like gold pouches. Before we had money, we had gold, right? Let me see what else. So this is another representation here, like this sesame seed balls, the sweet dumplings over here. Okay, and it's also you can see the sprouting effect, so that represents like prosperity. So can you see it, AJ? I see you're squinting.
Yeah, I should probably put my glasses on. But thank you for explaining the red. I used to have a dear friend who was Chinese named Robert Wu, and he always would give me money in a red envelope.
Were you not married back then?
Well, I was married at the time. I was actually an activity director at a retirement home, and he was my favorite patient, and he just always would give me red envelopes.
Yeah, so that's just purely tradition, and not necessarily it has to be with money. It could also, sometimes they put candy there as well, and it's to represent candy. We make like a lot of desserts just to represent the sweetness and the kindness of people, and that is passed to one another. Okay, let's see, these are different snacks that are usually presented during a celebration, New Year's Eve. This is actually lotus root that's like dusted and sugar powdered, pistachios, peanuts. These are watermelon, watermelon seeds. And these are all.
What do you do with the watermelon seeds?
These, I believe they are fried, and they're also coated, and it's also a snack. These are all snacks as well. And these are just things for people to munch on. So New Year's Eve is the whole point of it is to invite a lot of close family and friends. It's supposed to be a celebration of family and friends. And you're making New Year's Eve, and the second day after New Year's Day, you're supposed to be cooking a feast. And it's especially New Year's Eve, you're supposed to be cooking a feast. Traditionally, it's supposed to be 9 dishes and a soup. Okay, so 10, representing 10 to complete like a whole set, right? And traditionally, it's like bunch of vegetable, it's balanced. Everything is harmony and balance. So it's like veggies and grains and seafood and meat and soup and fish and stuff like that. So it's supposed to be representing everything. I'm just speaking in traditional context. And the point of it is to make a feast, and the point of it is to actually not finish everything. So you're supposed to have leftovers. So what that represents is that you have food for the next year. Okay, that's what it's supposed to represent. Let's see, here's a couple other desserts as well. So this one, I don't know the English translation to it, but this is like a very thick, it's similar to like a flan, but it's much thicker. It's not using egg, but it's much thicker than that. Very gelatin-like, and it's very sticky and very sweet. And so this represents kind of like the glue and the bond between each other, like the kindness and the sweetness between each other. Okay. And then I'm going to go circle back to some of the ingredients that we have to throw in here. So when you visit your Asian store, you may or may not be lucky to have packaging that actually has English on it. So back in the day when growing up, we used to go, so I grew up in New Jersey. We were only like 45 minutes drive from Manhattan. So, and in my opinion, Chinatown in Manhattan in New York City is the best in the world, outside of China and Hong Kong and all that stuff. So, and so, that's where we did our food shopping once every week. We would do that growing up until before Asian supermarkets came along. So this is dried lily flower, okay? This is bean curd, dried bean curd, okay? We would actually, a lot of these ingredients we had to soak overnight for at least a minimum of 3 hours. We put a little bit of baby corn into this. Let me see. We use dried white fungus. This is ginkgo nuts, or in other words, it's called white nuts. Let's see. This is fresh green bamboo shoot. Usually you would find this in cans, but we actually managed to find fresh. This is black wood ear fungus. So whenever you hear fungus, don't get turned off by it. We actually eat, Chinese people eat a lot of mushrooms and different varieties of fungus. This is, let me see if I can spin it around. Mung bean sprouts. These are organically grown, non-GMO. So this is choy sum or choy meal in Chinese. These are different kinds of Chinese vegetables that you don't get in your traditional grocers. It's kind of like representing our broccoli. This is red dates. And then this is the process overnight. I just snapped a few pictures. So this is soaking it overnight, okay? And then what this does, this is the white fungus. What this does is that it rehydrates it, and in your hands, it feels like, oh man, what does it feel like? It's hard to describe. I don't have anything. It's just like very slippery. If you ever eaten, I don't know if anyone was vegan from the get-go, but if you ever eaten like jellyfish, it tastes and feels like that, that's the closest I can think of.
I didn't know you could eat jellyfish.
You can.
Oh, wow.
We're Chinese. We eat anything that moves pretty much. Just come into like our live markets overseas.
Wow.
This is shiitake mushrooms that have been rehydrated. So we had soaked it. This is the bean curd that I showed you that we soaked overnight. This is the lily flower that we soaked overnight. These are pictures from this morning. This is the black wood ear that we also just soaked as well. For the bean curd, we cut this up, just to like smaller pieces. And then we started to, let's see, what else? Yeah, I think that was it. Okay. And then we also just kind of like steamed and marinated the shiitake mushrooms first, just to kind of start the process. We had to mise en place a lot of stuff. We had to do a couple other steps in respect of time. So, but I'll write all that down in the recipe. So, any questions?
Well, we actually have some medical questions, but we can save those till the end if you like.
Okay, cool. All right. So basically, I'm going to take the green bamboo shoots and I'm going to start to cut them up. So let me just rinse my knife real quick.
Any special knife you prefer, Dr. Zhu?
I prefer my cleaver. The Chinese like to use cleavers or butcher's knives. And I just like the handle of it. It's just, easier for me. I do use my, traditional chef or French knife. So for this, I like to kind of cut it up into different, I like to, quarter cuts just to make, so this dish, you want to go for variety. You want to go for variety in shape. You want to go for variety and diversity of ingredients. And as you can see from the spread, there's a lot of colors. There's different types of veggies that you see there. And traditionally, it's 18 ingredients. So it's a huge spread. And, it's really meant to kind of fit. It's a type of dish that's meant to fit like an emperor. So back in the day, we had dynasties, and the chefs were like top of the top of the top, because you have to like feed an emperor and their court. I guess, if not, you just be beheaded, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, they're top of the top. And so the dishes were just like insane. They were just, just beautifully laid out, fit for a king, as they say. So. What is AJ, what is your favorite? Do you have a favorite like Chinese dish?
Oh gosh, I used to love mapo tofu, and then I found out I was allergic to soy, but the sauce on it was amazing. And I love lettuce cups, and you made those last month. I mean, Asian food is the best because I'm such a rice lover, especially a white rice lover. So I think you can never go wrong with any kind of, because the way in Chinese restaurants, they cook the vegetables so that they're not mushy. Like they really have mastered the art of cooking vegetables. Don't you agree?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, so for like, we cook things family style. So everything in the middle, and then we have our rice. And a lot of times the dishes in the middle, the flavoring is usually we have very subtle flavors, but also a lot of dishes are cooked with a lot of sauce. So the flavors are a bit heavy by itself. And so the part of the rice, the purpose of the rice is to kind of take that away, and also to add to be more filling as well. And also very representative of, it's very family style, very because back in the day, it was, every village, every home, just a bunch of kids, a bunch of, everyone lived. It's very intergenerational, very, very common to have 2 to 3 generations under one roof. And so you're literally cooking for your own mini village, inside your home. So, okay. So let me see.
I do see a question about dried mushrooms. Is it true that they last almost indefinitely?
I don't know about indefinitely. They can last for a long time. Especially shiitake. Shiitake mushrooms are like one of my favorite. So are one of my favorites. So I would they do last for a long time. I'm not sure about forever. I know a Twinkie is forever, but I don't know about dried, Okay, cool. So what we're gonna do is we're going to parboil the choy sum first. Okay, so this is the choy sum that I showed you before, and we're gonna do that first, and then there's 2 steps. So we're gonna parboil the choy sum, and then we have like a wok filled with water, 2/3 up with water. And that's up to a boil right now. And so what we're gonna do is kind of quick like parboil, the rest of the ingredients. And then what we're gonna do is just basically put everything into one wok, and then add the sauces. The sauces, I'm gonna explain really quickly. So one of the ingredients for the sauce is, so there's different kinds of soy sauce. Okay, this one is called santou. And there's santou and lotou. So basically, santou is like lighter in terms of color, but it is heavier in terms of like salt flavor. Okay, and then lotou is basically similar, but it's less in the sodium content, but it is darker in color. So the reason why we've separated different kinds of varieties of soy sauce is because there's certain dishes that you want it to kind of look a certain way, right? And then the traditional dish, you would actually add a little bit of sweetness to it. So the traditional recipe calls for sugar, but nowadays, and especially on the show, we want to use dates. So I found date syrup in TJ's. So we're going to be using date syrup. And then traditional recipe would call for cornstarch, but I'm using tapioca flour. Okay, so and so again, if you're lucky, if you have an Asian supermarket, Chinese market, you can find all these. Okay, and so what I did is we did the mushrooms first. Okay, that was the first step. Okay, and then I'm making another sauce, combining all three that I just mentioned. Okay, so this is the Santo, the light soy sauce with the date syrup and the tapioca. Okay, so we're going to put them all together in a moment. It'll make more sense. Okay, so I'm going to move you guys now. Let's see. Okay, so we have this pot going.
It's possible to cook in a wok without oil, right?
So the traditional recipe is, with actually a lot of oil, but we're gonna do it without oil. So we'll see how it turns out. And the point of the oil is different than how you would think about using oil just to kind of cook with. So for example, the oil traditionally is used to kind of harden the bean curd a little bit. And this is the bean curd that has been soaked, and then I got rid of the soaking water. So while we're doing that, so I'm just going to quickly parboil these real quick.
This is so fun to watch.
Is the view okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a sneak peek at what really happens in Chinese restaurants. You don't really get to see them cooking in front of you.
Yeah, for sure. I understand that. So
I wonder if he cooks this way for himself every day.
I don't know about you, Chef AJ, but most chefs that I know don't go all out. They like to go the lazy route. Especially if they work in a conventional kitchen or restaurant. They're cooking all day. They just want to like chill out. So. What about yourself? Do you do the same spread for yourself, or?
I pretty much eat the same thing. Well, for lunch, I really do eat the same thing every day. I love Hannah yams and broccoli, and it's just easy, and I love it. And I vary my dinner: soups, stews, chilies.
Have you ever done a video of what Chef AJ eats in a day?
I do, but it's so boring. That's why I don't keep releasing them.
All right. I am sure people are eager to watch, since you talk about, you talk, with others about what they eat, what they prepare. I'm sure people are really curious on what you do.
It's just, but when you went to culinary school, it was not like for learning how to cook Chinese, right?
No, a lot of this is really just, a lot of it takes after my mother and father, my mother especially. She was very versatile. She still is very versatile in the kitchen. She's one of those where she's never ever followed the recipe. So it's kind of hard to, ask her about certain things. I'm sure everyone in the audience can relate, with their grandpa, grandma, or something like that, or whoever they end up following. But yeah, she's one of those where, looks at a fridge, what can we cook for dinner? And because we grew up as my parents came in the early 80s. So, we grew up with a lot of, American fast food and restaurants and stuff. And so, you get addicted to all the, all the processed stuff. And so what she would do growing up is that, different dishes that we liked, she would try to, actually cook it, from memory. And I thought that was really, really cool, just using her senses.
Maybe we could get your mom on the show.
Yeah.
Because she's a doctor too. She's another chef doc, isn't she?
She's been practicing traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture for over 4 decades now. And this was mostly in Staten Island, New York. So because we're all from New Jersey, and she had a practice in New York. And so since the pandemic, she had to shift everything virtually. But now, we have more of a home-based practice. So yeah, if anyone, that's listening needs a lifestyle medicine consultant, or, is in the Southern California area, and, we have a home-based practice, you guys could stop by.
Do you do acupuncture too, Dr. Zhu?
I do not. I learned informally. I learned through my mother. So I've had acupuncture done. I've given it as well. So yeah, I know how to do it, but not like you have to go to schooling. Acupuncture school usually takes like 4 years.
It's
3 to 4 years.
incredible. I mean, I got to tell you, I've suffered for 1.5 years with TMJ. I tried dental stuff, medication, physical therapy with little relief. And then I started going to a Chinese acupuncture doctor. And man, it's like, I want to say I'm cured now. It's so powerful, acupuncture.
TMJ?
Yeah, it worked.
Were you grinding your teeth?
Yeah, I mean, I still wear the dental plate, but nothing relieved the pain. And finally, somebody said go to acupuncture, and man, it does. And I don't believe it's a placebo effect for acupuncture. And the reason I say that is before this little dog that I have now, I've always had very large dogs, and as they got older, they always had some kind of arthritis and could barely walk. And then after acupuncture, they could walk again. And there's no way you can have placebo effect on a dog.
Yeah, we do acupuncture on dogs, on animals as well. Yeah, we can do that. So, for those of you that don't know, so Chinese medicine, acupuncture, everything is under the umbrella term of traditional Chinese medicine. So herbs, acupuncture, qigong, moxibustion, all that is under the guatsa or guasha. That's all under the umbrella of traditional Chinese medicine. It's very fascinating. Goes back at least, a couple thousands of years. And I believe it was the Qing Dynasty that started off at. Very fascinating stuff, and basically very opposite of Western medicine theory in terms of it's not a reductionist approach and isolating things in a very singular fashion, but it's really understanding how different organ systems relate to each other, and everything is operated off of qi or energy, or hei is how you say in Chinese. So qi, hei is basically, the life force that we all, have. And so different meridians in the body represent like your highway system of qi flow, okay? And so having disease is really just an imbalance of that qi flow and understanding how to rebalance them. And so acupuncture is used as a tool to be able to do that. For you, AJ, acupuncture was used for pain relief. Acupuncture before anesthesia was actually used before anesthesia.
Wow, that's amazing. Hey, there's a couple of questions on the types of pans. What are they called, and how long does each item stay in the boiling water?
These are woks. This is before I had maybe 2/3 water, so this a lot of it is evaporated already. This is, I believe these are ceramic woks. You can get a lot of ceramic woks. All right, and let's see, last but not least, almost there, guys. Yeah, it's very fascinating stuff in terms of the acupuncture.
I'm curious because well, I've never been to China, but I've been to Japan, and a lot of the food is very high in sodium. Do they suffer at all from high blood pressure or any consequences as a result of having so much salt?
It depends on where you go, right? So, when you are, when you read the China study, a lot of it is, the studies and populations that they studied in the rural settings versus, more of the city settings, right? And the city settings is, the cuisines there is really because, what we like, food is very near and dear to our hearts, right? Which I'm sure is for a lot of people, but it's very near and dear to our hearts. And so what it is that we like it, it has to be really good. It has to be, really like cheap, and it has to be fast, okay? Because basically you're feeding, we're like what, 1.4 billion people. I think India is like 1.3 billion. So it's a lot of mouths to feed. So just imagine how many, people would just be lining up, at the door. So you have to go fast with a lot of things. And if your food is not good, you're not going to get business. So, I say that to say that, maybe things are really salty because, it was just a quicker, easier way to, let me get rid of this water, easier way to, enhance flavor. But yeah, I mean, some of them use MSG, some of them don't. It really depends. I mean, I've never lived there, so I can't really speak on it. So, in Chinese cooking, not everyone thinks about it in a health context. Chinese medicine is very, very prominent. But yeah, I would probably say with the age of globalization from Western, societies, you do see an uptick of chronic diseases that they didn't have before, because a lot of the food has been more predominantly, plant-based, especially if you're in the countryside, in the rural settings, meat, was more expensive, right? And so, you eat that, sporadically. It's not really, all the time. Okay. So basically we have, I switched out another wok. Let's see. So I put the fire on. So now what we're going to do is it's going to be a lot. I'm going to use a little bit here. I'm not going to use all this. So basically you're combining ingredients right now. This is the shiitake mushrooms from before. So the tapioca, as you can see, gives it a nice thick sauce-like coating. Some carrots. You can see this okay, right, AJ?
Yeah, oh my God, it's like mouthwateringly beautiful. What's the difference, they use the word Asian to describe a variety of different cuisines, right? But they're not the same. Can you
Definitely not.
expound on differences between, Chinese food and, Japanese food, Korean food? They're all delicious, but they're not the same. Is there a hallmark of each one?
Oh, that is like its own episode.
Okay, well, maybe talk about that, because I'm very curious, because a lot of times there's a fusion going on when you go to restaurants.
Yeah, and you know what? Like I'm not a big I like fusion because you want to be like innovative. I think in the culinary arts, there's a huge push to kind of be like innovative and using different types of techniques and stuff like that. And for me, it's all about, good flavor, how it, looks, and, if it's good for you, and really the bond that it creates with people when you're eating it, with people. That's what I care about. I care about the social connectedness and, all that. So, yeah, so I would probably say, oh man, that's hard. That's a hard question to answer. Korean food, Japanese food, Chinese food, Vietnamese food. Oh man, there's so many differences between. It differs in terms of technique. It differs in terms of flavor. Different regions have different spices and herbs that they use. Let's see. Japanese, let's see, let me see. So Vietnamese is very Vietnamese, let me see. Let me try to cook this down real quickly. Vietnamese is more more fresh. They use a lot of fresh ingredients. Japanese as well. Chinese cuisines, there's actually not a lot of raw ingredients. Korean food, there's a lot of spices. They love tofu a lot. They love hot pot a lot. There's a lot of good spices. I know Korean barbecue is a big thing here in America. So yeah, I'm probably not the best person to kind of speak on the individual cuisines. And I like the fact that there's an uptick of, sushi and pho and ramen, but I think it's also important to kind of understand, where it comes from in the whole grand scheme of their individual cuisines, so. Like, for example, like noodles, for Chinese cuisine, noodles, like like the Italians and pasta and spaghetti and all that stuff, that came from China first. Noodles came from China first. And then, Marco Polo and, everything, brought that over. So noodles, we're like the originators in terms of noodles. We do dry noodles, we do wet noodles, we do soup noodles. We love tofu, we love mushrooms, we love ginger. I think this is pretty much done. So as you can see for this dish, there's a variety of color, right? You have red, you have orange, you have yellow, you have dark browns, you have black, okay? And that's also similar to what I was talking about before, representative of the variety and diversity that you want. But this dish typically has 18 ingredients. I didn't actually count how many there were in here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's probably about 8 to 10 here. I think we're good. Turn off the flame.
So I'm curious what you think. Obesity rates are high everywhere, but they're still lower in Asia than anywhere else. So is it just genetic or is it the diet?
I haven't looked at the obesity rates in China and Asia. I would probably say to you, and put this fine. I forgot to put the bamboo shoots. I would probably say there's a lot of differences just in terms of lifestyle. There's anything outside of America, it has its own community plaza, right? If you go to Europe, almost everything is walking distance, right? When I studied abroad in Spain, I never drove in a car. There was no ride share back then. I didn't even take a taxi. I just walked everywhere, and everything had its own center. And so in China, depending on where you are, especially in the city, everyone walks. In Hong Kong, everyone walks, kind of like Manhattan. So basically, lifestyle is very different. Back in the day, my dad would tell me it's walking, walking and cycling, bicycle cycling. So the lifestyle is different. That contributes to the obesity rate.
Yep. We sit a lot in the United States, don't we?
Yeah. Well, everything is further apart, I think one of the complaints living in LA County and Orange County, which I know you, AJ, can attest to, is that you have to drive everywhere, right? You have to drive everywhere. You have to, nothing is like walking distance.
Right.
So, and couple that with how our society is, and then on top of that, a pandemic, you have a recipe for disaster. Turn on the flame.
Yeah, and the thing is in Asian cuisine, they do use oil, they do use sugar, they do use salt,
Yeah, yeah.
and they use noodles, which are flour, and yet they still don't have the obesity rates that we do. I'm
Well, the
guessing.
thing is that we eat a lot of whole foods. We don't eat a lot of processed foods. We eat a lot of whole foods. And so, the amount of contribution from, for like inflammatory markers is a lot less, right? Now, but the caveat is that because of globalization, a lot of Western places are being adopted. It's cool to eat, similar to Americans. It's cool to have Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's cool to have Pizza Hut, which, they have, what I'm saying? But they don't know is that, they're going to be following the same health trends as us, right? America, we spend about almost 20% of our gross domestic product on healthcare. And yet we're not the healthiest. We're actually on the bottom in terms of health outcomes for, most of the Western societies, so something needs to be done. I think I said it in the last show is that, with the advent of the White House Hunger Nutrition conference that President Biden just had, and then my professional organization, the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, we're making a huge effort to really galvanize instilling more education for our practitioners, for our healthcare providers. So we're actually giving, free continuing education on, food as medicine, nutrition, and lifestyle medicine, like basics, about like 5.5 hours worth. So yeah, okay, I'm gonna bring you back over here. Can you see this, AJ?
Yeah, it looks gorgeous.
Okay. One of my favorites, it's really the bean curd that you saw with the black wood ear fungus and the shiitake mushrooms are like some of my favorites, and the bean sprouts. Okay. Oh, it's actually noon.
I know. Isn't this perfect that we do this show
Yeah,
at 11?
I know. I'm lucky to have this spot, AJ.
Okay. Are you going to have it with like some rice, perhaps?
Yeah, we have rice on the side. So yeah. So there you go. This is Buddha's Delight, and yeah.
This would be anybody's delight if they could eat it.
So yeah, you can eat this with rice. And for our household, we eat it. We like to have glass noodles with this as well. Just making sure everything is turned off. Okay, yeah. Yeah, we like to have it with like glass noodles sometimes. We don't eat, white rice anymore. So sometimes we do a combination of like red rice or brown rice or quinoa or forbidden rice, which is, more, it's like the black rice, which is really yummy.
I love black rice.
Yeah, which is really yummy. And yeah, so yeah, do you have any questions, or your audience members have any questions?
Well, they did send in doctor questions, which you can answer, or we can save for next time, or I can ask another doctor because we have like 18 a month on the show. But here's a culinary question. What is the difference between tofu sheets and tofu in the square container? And are there any other options besides soy sauce or coconut aminos?
So soy sauce, you can use tamari. Okay, tamari is very similar to soy sauce, except it's gluten-free. Coconut aminos by what is it? Bragg's? Is it Bragg's? What's
Yeah,
the
Bragg's
company?
amino acid.
Yeah, that's popular. I've only used it like once or twice. There's different kinds. Japanese has like shoyu, mirin. Those are like more advanced dishes in terms of layering, in terms of flavoring. I guess I need to understand the context of the question. Like, do they want to ask like, to kind of lower the sodium content? I need to understand the context. They do make low sodium soy sauce as well. So, and then if you're a person with high blood pressure or hypertension, then it's just, using it sparingly, to flavor things. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Thanks. Nurse Sandy says, how do Chinese restaurants cut carrots into those nice flat cut shape?
A flat cut. So I like doing, I don't have a carrot to demonstrate. But those I just used like the baby carrots, and then just kind of quartered them. And then it's like yeah, I would have to demonstrate. So I don't have anything in front of me, but it's like a quarter cut is basically you take like, a regular size carrot, and then you're holding it down, you're cutting it, you're turning it quarter, cutting it, turning it quarter, cutting it down. And the point of it is to, really has this nice 3D, diamond-like shape. But what's really cool is that if you do it correctly, they all look like the same size, even though the carrot tapers, right? It's very large on one end and then it tapers down, right? So yeah, that's how I usually, it depends on the dish, to be honest with you. So I like to do moon cuts, half moon cuts, round cuts. It's really your preference.
Thank you. And let's see, I saw a question from Daria. Have you heard about lion's mane's mushrooms to help with neuropathy?
I have not heard that with that association. I know there's a lot of benefits with lion's manes. Like China, we use a lot of like reishi, mushrooms, as well as shiitake. There's a great program on Netflix called Fantastic Fungi, and I actually interviewed a a fungi, a mushroom expert actually, on my podcast. I think he was in season 4, and he talks a lot about mushroom, including lion's manes. And shiitake, I think, is his favorite mushroom. Not all mushrooms are edible, and I know that there's wild mushrooms, and you can forage mushrooms and stuff like that. So you don't want to get into that if you don't know what you're doing. So, but there's only a few varieties of mushrooms that are actually edible. So,
hey, you better be careful, right? Don't want to be going foraging. So Joyce said about you, did you cook everything for 30 minutes, 30 seconds in the water?
Yeah, so I parboiled everything just to kind of speed up the cooking process. And then that final walk is really just to kind of put everything together and put the sauce on top of that. And then just like, you kind of stir it around. You saute it with, two spatulas. And it's quick. So I was just talking, as I was doing this, it was a lot longer. So if you did all these steps, the prep is longer. I would probably say the prep will probably take, not including the soaking overnight, but the prep, and the cooking will probably take you, maybe a couple hours, but the actual cooking time would probably be like 30 minutes or less.
Great. Joyce said if you could go over the individual ingredients, but you said something about maybe getting us the exact recipe.
Yeah. And I don't know when you came into the episode, but I had pictures. I screen shared pictures as well. So you can just, look back. But I'm going to type up the recipe. So I don't have it in the moment. So check back later. So
Yeah.
can we talk about our announcements?
Yes, please.
So we have two announcements, right? Really, humble to work with Chef AJ and Lissa from Raw Food Romance for this ultimate vegan health and weight loss bundle. I will talk about my contributions. You want to, AJ, share a quick 2 or 3 lines about what it is and what people can anticipate from it?
We mean from your contribution or from the bundle?
Just the bundle in general.
Yeah,
what do people?
Well, the bundle, guys, is over 120 distinct items from your favorite plant-based doctors, chefs, influencers, and athletes. They could be an ebook, they could be a course, they could be exclusive video, they could be a coupon, but valued separately, it would cost almost $6,500. And for a very limited period of time of now 9 days, you can get it all for $49. You have a year to download it. You own it forever, and it's epic. There are courses there that cost between $200 and $400.
Yeah, and it would probably take you a whole year just to kind of go through everything. There's so much. So I was on last year's bundle and this year's bundle. My contribution is 2 things. One is I'm doing a audio course, a whole food plant-based 101 essentials. So anyone that is looking to incorporate more plant-based, not knowing where to start, it's an audio course for an hour. Guiding everyone to how to stock your pantry, fridge, how to navigate supermarket, basic kitchen utensils. That's 1. 2 is both of them brand new programs. Second one is a 21-day challenge off of my book, Thrive Medicine. And it's centered around different strategies of shifting towards a positive mindset. I think that's, what we can all, afford, especially during the pandemic and with the advent of more and more mental health bubbling up to the surface. So it's great for setting new milestones, because we're in the new year, just attacking, those goals. And so it's a 21-day program, video companion course with the book in audio form. And both of them are actually on my new app, which got launched a couple weeks ago. So you're actually accessing it, on an app. So pretty wild for a doctor to have an app. So I was like scratching my head. I was like, why did I do this? and it's cool to be able to be included in a smartphone app ecosystem. So everyone, when you're leaving from your home, what do you carry, right? Your keys, your wallet, and a smartphone, right? So, and we wanted to make, things accessible here at the ChefDoc. So,
I have your app. I got it. Look.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
I didn't log in, but it is. There it is.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful, right? It's just so much. It's so much stuff. So definitely encourage. So there's links in the show notes that when the show goes on replay down below. There's links to the bundle as well. And then also I have a quick 5-minute survey. For gauging audiences in terms of, how can we help you guys more? How can we optimize your wellness? So it's like a quick 5-minute survey. And if you take that, we also give you a gift as well from the app in case you don't participate in the bundle. So the links will be in the show notes. So yeah. That's it for me.
Thank you. This was a wonderful presentation. It's just
fun. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you and I can't next month is March. I don't think there's any holidays. Well, St. Patrick's Day.
No. It's it'll be the weekend before my birthday, but yeah, so
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, then we'll do what you love for your birthday. My birthday's in March too, so we can celebrate. Thank you so much, Dr. Zhu.
All right. Thank you so much, Chef AJ. And thank you everyone watching.
So fun to watch you cook using a knife instead of a scalpel.
Yes. It's so awesome. So thank you very much. And I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you so much. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. If you'd like to get the link from Dr. Zhu, the link is in the show notes and in the chat. And please come back in about 50 minutes for another wonderful show with Elspeth Feldman, the Speedy Vegan. She is going to be making Coco Loco, Moco Tarts, and a